What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. This video I want to talk about Netherrealm Studios. This is the studio behind Injustice. This is the studio behind Mortal Kombat. And there's been some new comments from Ed Boon, their director, right? The guy basically behind Mortal Kombat. There's some news regarding him kind of hinting at future things going on. I kind of want to place what we've heard from him. I think it was yesterday or maybe even Saturday, and then kind of tie it to what he was talking about back even in 2019. So we're going to do all that in this video. Really quickly before I get started, I want to promote my second channel. The link will be in the description below. It's a lot like Podcast Now. It's called Podcast Now Plus. I do additional videos there. I do some things that maybe don't necessarily fit on this channel, but at the end of the day, it's just more content. So if you guys like the content you get here and you want to see more, definitely check out that link. Check out the channel. Subscribe there. I would really appreciate it. And with that being said, let's go into what Ed Boon said. So he was interviewed by Jeff Keighley, and let's just go over his quote. I'll show the picture, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. Mortal Kombat has become like a staple thing, almost Marvel-like. You don't expect the last Marvel movie to ever come out. They're just going to keep coming. Even though we've been able to scratch other itches, you know, doing Injustice games and stuff, and we have other stuff in the oven. There's the key quote, basically. But it's always nice to do the Mortal Kombat games, especially when the players have been embracing them as they have. If you would have told me this would be our so far fastest-selling Mortal Kombat game of all of them, 20-something years later, I wouldn't have believed it. The fact that they're doing as well as they ever have is great. All right, really quickly. So he said, you know, they have other stuff in the oven. That is the key quote. I want to go to a interview with PlayStation Lifestyle. This was back in 2019. I think this was right around the time that Mortal Kombat 11 was releasing. And actually this was with Game Informer. It says right here. In a recent interview with Game Informer, Boon expressed the team's desire to explore other options. He told the publication, "While we love making Mortal Kombat games, we would love to expand into other genres, other IP, other things like that for sure." Boon continued, explaining that the franchise's success makes it difficult for them to call it quits. One of the challenges of having your last game sell the most of any other game is, you know, it's hard to just stop from there and say, you know, well, we're done. But certainly we can take a break from it and build up anticipation for a future title. So actually, he kind of says, if you think about it, like a story, like he's telling a story, you kind of get you kind of get, like, I think a pretty good, like, picture of his mindset, right? That he does it really does seem like he has wanted for a long time. And we've heard this, by the way. We've heard this, I think, even before 2019. I think in 2018, 2017, going back several years, we have heard that they want to do other things. There was rumors of having, and I think I guess not rumors, but there was talk, I think even specifically from him, that he would like to do a Marvel versus DC kind of thing. So there's always been talk that other things could happen. I didn't actually know that he mentioned doing other genres. So getting out, because I saw quite a few articles running with that, getting out of the fighting genre. Like, is that something that we could ever see Netherrealm doing? To be completely honest with you, I don't think so. I think a studio like them, who literally has done this, and again, I mean, it's not a bad thing, but they've literally done the side-by-side fighting game. They've done that for as long as you can humanly remember, because that's their entire studio, right? Technically, NetherRealm Studios, like that studio name, came into the fold not all that long ago. It wasn't decades, and remember, it was not called NetherRealm like way back in the day when Mortal Kombat first started. But if you think of NetherRealm, all they've done is fighting games, right? So this is very interesting that he, not just that, but that as recently as a couple days ago, he throws out there that they have other stuff in the oven. Again, it's widely speculated that it's going to go Injustice and then maybe a brand new game. You know, not going back to Mortal Kombat or Injustice, because we know Injustice 3 is the next game, okay? What's sad, I guess, is that it really does seem like him, and I guess by extension, considering the studio is him and the studio really do want to do other things, but they're still trapped into finishing Injustice, which is fine. I mean, a lot of people like Injustice. I think it's very fun for them to do. I think that is different enough from Mortal Kombat that it probably helps them kind of get away from, because imagine being stuck in that stereotype that you're so well known for Mortal Kombat, but you want to do other things. But I think it's very possible. I think it's possible that, you know, much like maybe Naughty Dog, right, when they went like, they had Uncharted straight through, right, Uncharted 3, and then they had Last of Us, and then they had Uncharted 4, and then they have The Last of Us Part 2. But now after The Last of Us Part 2, they are going to do a new game, a brand new game, and then ideally or probably they'll do The Last of Us Part 3, right? So I actually kind of see it like that, where do you do Injustice 3, which is the final game, and I think it's pretty kind of laid out there that this will be the last Injustice game. Do you do that? Then do you do again a Mortal Kombat game, but then after that, instead of doing what would be Injustice 4 or just in an Injustice game, right? Like put that placeholder there, do you do a brand new game? I think you do. And I guess what's exciting is the fact that when they say they have other stuff in the oven, they're thinking games down the line. It's also possible that Mortal Kombat wouldn't be the game after Injustice 3, because if it's in the oven, this new game, why would it be in there if you're not going to do it for 6-7 years, right? So I think, honestly, it could be coming faster than we think, but it is exciting. I think it would be a fighting game, so in terms of like suggestions or my own predictions, they're owned by Warner Bros. And I think that is a little, difficult. Like, can you do a Marvel versus DC game? I don't know how well I guess the licenses would play out if Warner Bros. Owns NetherRealm and they're the one publishing it. Can they do that with Marvel? I mean, I know that like Capcom has done stuff with Marvel before, and I don't necessarily. I'll be flat out honest with you. I don't really know how all that stuff works out. I think it's probably possible. Like, it's definitely possible. And again, we've heard talk that could be a possibility. But going back again to last year's interview where he said like was that kind of like planting the seed, getting that out there. They're like, hey, we'd like to not do fighting games for the rest of our lives. And then all of a sudden this time he says, yeah, we're working on like stuff besides these two games, right? Like, we want to do other things. Are we supposed to connect them and assume that maybe it's not a fighting game? I don't know. I mean, these games I think have gotten better and better in terms of storytelling. But I just think that, would you play like a single player like action adventure game from NetherRealm? Like, I think that would just be very, very different, very, very weird, maybe good. But, and while I do want to give as much credit as possible, because I think in their craft, NetherRealm is like top dog. They are super, super good at what they do. But if they start to do something completely opposite of it, which again is fine, and more, if they want to do that and they're given the green light, more power to them. I'm very happy for them, but I don't know if it'd actually be all that good, because if you're gonna make something that you haven't ever made before, there's always at least a possibility that it's not good, right? I guess you could even say, like with Guerrilla Games, like going from Killzone to Horizon. Now, they weren't all the same people, but that obviously had a big possibility of not being good, right? Imagine going from a first-person shooter to a third-person open-world dinosaur, mech game, right? Like, how is that necessarily going to work? Now, they brought in a lot of people from that realm of gaming, from the open. They hired a lot of Bethesda people actually to help them out with that game. So that could happen as well. I like the possibility. I'm not the biggest fighting game fan in the world. In fact, I don't play all that many games. It's maybe, besides racing games, it's maybe the only genre that I don't really get into all that much. With that being said, I bought Mortal Kombat 11. I actually really, really like that game. I've played the Injustice games, both of them 1 and 2. So I do like these games. I'm not very good at fighting games at all. Would I actually maybe prefer they do something besides fighting, because maybe it'd be easier for me to get into it? Yeah, actually, maybe you could look at it that way. But I really do think that I think he's telling a story. This definitely seems like he's telling a story. And while it's exciting, and I do like to speculate and predict these kind of things, right? This is right up my alley of what I do here. While I like that, what I guess is a little bit disappointing is the cat's kind of already out of the bag. We know Injustice 3 is next. Now, again, does that come out in 2021? Does that come out in 2022? The longer we wait for Injustice 3, the longer we have to wait for their brand new game, unless they've done something internally to make 2 different studios, which I don't think they technically have. I know there's probably a smaller team working on in fact, I guess that has to be what's going on right now, right? Is even that the newest DLC for Mortal Kombat 11, there's got to be a small team still working on it, but then the rest of the team, the majority of the team working on the next Injustice game, which has been in the works for a little while now. So again, it's fun to talk about, it's fun to speculate about, but at the end of the day, we still have to get to Injustice 3, which is not like it's a roadblock of any kind, right? Loads, including myself. I'm very excited for Injustice 3. I'm sure you guys are. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun talking and playing this game on this channel. So I'm very, very excited to experience Injustice 3 with you guys. But, going after that, we have to get there first. But I think It could be a Marvel versus DC game, but again, right there, that's a fighting game. That's literally, I mean, I just said it, right? Versus. So I think, honestly, it would still be a fighting game. I don't know, kind of in a sad way, if he'll ever get his wish of branching out. I think maybe just because there's so much in that stereotype that maybe they'll stay in there. I wish them the best of luck if they want to do it. All the power to them, but I wonder if they'll ever be able to get out of the fighting game genre. With that being said, though, guys, what do you think it's going to be? What do you think the next brand new game from Netherrealm Studios is? Let me know in the comments below. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed and have that bell icon turned on so you guys know when all these videos go up. And as we get closer to Injustice 3, probably not this year, isn't getting announced this year, I will be covering it. We'll have videos leading into it, and when the game releases, and then obviously whatever the next game from Netherrealm is, I will cover that as well, okay? Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope to see you all on the next video.